So after last week with the release of the Blackmagic firmware, ProRes RAW on DaVinci Resolve and all these kind of things, I thought I'd look at do a sort of deeper dive on the Blackmagic 4K Pocket Cinema Camera, which has been with us for years now, and have a look at it, what it can do now. Obviously, the firmware that was released, I think it's 9.3, gave it the ability to do ProRes RAW, but it can do a lot more. So what I'm going to do, I'll go through it. I'm going to be doing everything on Linux. So basically, if you want to know about how to do DaVinci Resolve on Linux and stuff, I'll put some links to how you get it on there, and I'll be doing it in OBS as well. So let's do a bit of history of the Blackmagic camera and its evolution. So before we dive in with it all, let's go right back to the very beginning. Where did RAW come from? So early 2000s, you can see on my beautifully made chart here, we had RAW and still photography. They are CR2, NEF. They were making the main camera companies were producing still image RAW files in their cameras. And then in 2007, a good thing or a pretty bad thing happened. Red released the Red 1 and Red codec, but what they did, they patented the ability to compress RAW files in a container. So I think it was anything over 12 or 17 frames per second. And it was their patent. So they released the Red 1. Great camera, very expensive, and it went out to, Hollywood started to take it on board. Slightly after that, and I think it was 2010, it's not on this chart, Arri released Arri RAW, which had to be, because of the patenting, that you couldn't record the RAW in camera. The Arri RAW was recorded externally to codecs recorders. So they had, uncompressed RAW, which is obviously the absolute top level of what you can get. And then in 2011, there must have been some deal or licensing thing done with Canon and Red, because they produced the Canon RAW. Now, originally this was to external recorders, but then it became Canon Cinema RAW and it went into the actual cameras. And 2018, basically, that's when Blackmagic RAW came up. Now, the reason, as I'll talk about in a minute, is because I think that there was some issue. There's two parts to it. The Cinema DMG files, amazing, but they're a nightmare to move around on a computer. Plus, I think, obviously, it's real close to the edge of the doing it in camera, recording Cinema DMGs in camera. It's right close to the patent limit, isn't it, really? If you're still recording video files on a computer, on a camera, but they're just not in a container, they're individual files. So I think there was a legal issue potentially. So anyway, Blackmagic created BRAW, which is their partially demosaicked format that goes into Blackmagic cameras. And then also you've got 2013, I've got Magic Lantern. I forgot about that. Magic Lantern, those guys hacked the camera and allowed you to record, do RAW recording within some of their Mark V D3. You could do it. Sony created their own pipeline. I've got Blackmagic RAW in there again twice. And then basically, later on, lots of other cameras worked out ways to pipe out a RAW signal into an external recorder unit. And all of this is really to get around the Red patent. So that's the background to it. And then obviously the last part of the news was Red 2 years ago or last year was sold to Nikon. So Nikon now own the compressed patent. And as we've sort of seen recently with the iPhone 17, I think they're licensing that patent out, and finally the entire industry can move forward as opposed to being held at gunpoint with Red and its patent. It was basically debilitating all the creators. And, Red, great businessmen, but what they did held us back for years. And it was amazing because, those cameras are hugely expensive. We couldn't access them. And then, Blackmagic came along and Blackmagic released the first one of their cinema cameras. And here it is. Here's the first one they released. I think it was 2010, 2011, this thing came out. And they went for a box camera, a metal with an internal battery, and it was EF and ZE mount. I think you could get a PL mount one as well. I can't remember back then. But it was absolutely groundbreaking. because you could record on an internal SSD cinema DNG files, and it was a massive disruptor, and it was £3,000. So all of a sudden we had access to raw recording on an affordable camera. Here's the specs. So it was a 2.5 sensor on the first one, 13 stops. It did cinema DNG, Apple ProRes, and Avid DNX HD. You could also pipe it out on Thunderbolt to record off the camera, and you could also go out over a 3 gig SDI. I've seen people use that. Not 2 years ago, I've been watching people they're actually using the 4K production camera, but that was incredibly powerful. The problem again with this camera, though, it capped out at 30 frames per second, which is okay. But at the time, I mean, we were just thankful that we had access to this kind of technology. And it was an amazing thing. This was such, $2,995 to be able to do this was absolutely incredible. I didn't get this. I sat it out, and I had been using, I was using Red cameras at the time, but I had to rent them. I didn't own a camera. And then the next one came out, and again, this sort of threw the whole thing up in the air. So this was the next one. And this was a bolt from the blue, and it was an amazing thing. It was a micro four thirds sensor camera. Oh, by the way, the original Blackmagic was a Super 35, but this was a micro four thirds. It was a tiny pocket camera. It was a MFT micro four thirds mount. It only shot HD, and it allowed you to shoot DNG files to SD cards, and it had a tiny battery. I bought one of these the moment I could get my hands on one. It was $995. It was amazing. It was like literally space age technology for the time. The quality you could get out of that little thing was amazing. You did have to have Metabones adapters to put on here, big lenses and stuff like that. But it was just such a cool thing. I think you can do, I'm just going to do the spec sheet actually. I'm sure you could have done ProRes internally as well. Yeah. So there you go. It was a Super 35 sensor, micro four thirds mount, 13 stops of dynamic range, built-in SD card. It did ProRes 422, and it did cinema DNGs. It had standard connections, mini HDMI out. You could remote control it, standard power, did 30 frames per second, and it supported HD. But for all of us who were renting Reds and stuff like this, and all those cameras were so far away in the clouds to own. I know people I read were always trying to get you to be owner whatever, but I don't know how to maintain a camera, so I always worry when I've hired cameramen and they've brought their own cameras, because unless they send them off and service them regularly, how much do you really know about how a Red camera works? But anyway, that's beside the point. This was amazing, and it really opened up the doorway for everybody to, that first one, brilliant, but this was so portable and ridiculously small. Again, though, it was sort of one of these things where this had a removable battery, and the original one didn't. The bigger camera didn't have a removable battery. That was a problem. For these, you could pop out the batteries, and you could run around all day with loads of little batteries. Brilliant. So yeah, so they did that, and then all of a sudden the world sort of got a bit bigger. So next up was this, the Blackmagic production camera, 4K. So it shot 4K, which was like a really big step at the time. I can't remember the year this came out. I got one of these. It was global shutter. It had the same sort of box camera thing as the original. So if you had any rigging from your 2.5, you could use it on this thing. And it was literally the same sort of shape, design, everything. Blackmagic have done this a lot. They use the same shapes of the cameras, the same chassis, and they just enhance the technology that's inside them. The 6K cameras they've got now, the Pocket 6Ks or whatever they're called. And the specs on this was great. So Super 35, global shutter, 12 stops, EF mount, inbuilt SD card. This was great. You could pop the SD card in, just pull it out. It was a 60 SDI out, so you could pipe that out. And yeah, all the normal stuff. So Thunderbolt connection, fantastic. The big stumbling block on this, and this is the why me and this camera party company, was that it topped out. If they could have got this thing to 60 frames per second, I'd still be using it today. This image out of this is absolutely incredible. It had, I think, 800 ISO or something like that. It wasn't huge, but it was very filmic, incredibly filmic camera, but it topped out 30 frames per second. I used to do tons of fashion shoots, and they always wanted slow motion, and you couldn't do it. So that was hugely problematic. So, I persevered with this for a while, And then I can't remember the date that they released this. 2000, was it 2018? We come up to date with the camera that I've been talking about in this video, the Blackmagic Pocket 4K Cinema Camera. So when this thing came out, it was like, I think Grant Petty, the way that he presents is just hilarious. He's like, and we made this. He's really nonchalant about it. And it was like a game-changer camera, and it still is today. And you've seen all the cameras that have come from this one here. And it's utterly amazing that they've literally just updated the firmware. And that's why I've made this video and brought it forward and brought it up to date. So here goes, micro four thirds, does a 4K DCI, 13 slots, has dual gain control, does LUTs, it's got micro SD card, it's got a CF card, never used that, but it can do 120 frames per second, but it can do 4K at 60, which is what a lot of us wanted. It's got Bluetooth, it's even got a gyroscope built into it. It's called the Mini XLR, because one of the other things I do mention, the audio on the production 4K was atrocious, but the audio on this is totally passable. And it came out, when it originally came out, it was ProRes and Cinema DNG. But as I mentioned earlier on, there was this kerfuffle of some kind, and we had to transition. Some people have still got the cameras with Cinema DNG. We had to transition over to BRAW, which is actually better, I think, because obviously chucking around individual files is a nightmare. But this was a great portable camera, huge issues with the battery life. They never got that right, but there's so many solutions to that. So that's brought us up to date. And with the new firmware that came out the other week, it gives the camera a whole new recording capability and sort of gives us something extra. But there's two things they've introduced the camera over the years, which have been incredibly important. The first thing they did is this. We'll talk about this first of all. We've got Blackmagic, we've got ProRes recording on the camera now. We've got Blackmagic RAW with constant bitrate, constant quality. And you can see from the box in the middle now, from this new update, we've got one more. We've now got ProRes RAW. And so we've got three different types of recording on the camera. There are three different codecs. So, and then there's one last thing that we'll talk about. Okay, so we're going to look at the history of the Blackmagic camera, the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera, and sort of evolution and some specs. But what can we do with it? Now, it's incredibly versatile. I mean, you can use it, obviously, standard shooter camera, go out and do what you want. We'll have a look at that in a minute. We'll just grab some stuff and have a look. But one of its other uses, which came in, I think, one of the firmware updates on 8.3, it was a beta, was the fact you can very easily use it as a webcam. So what I've got hooked up here, I've got a Blackmagic on top of my C70, and I'll just switch between the two. Okay, so now we're on the Blackmagic. Now, there's obviously, getting some of these cameras hooked up to be webcams is quite tricky. I'm going to switch back to the Canon for a sec. So it can be quite tricky. I mean, the Canon doesn't have, I can't do it over USB. I don't think there is some kind of network thing, but basically it's coming out of HDMI into a capture device that's pushing into USB-C. But the Blackmagic, huge advantage, it's got a USB-C port on it. You just plug it into a computer, you can capture over USB-C. Really, really simple. There's a switch on there at the back that says switch to webcam, and off it goes. Now, what I'll do is, I'm recording all this to OBS, so let me just jump in. You can see both cameras at once there. There's me, that's Blackmagic, that's the Canon. And down the bottom here, if it comes up properly, you'll see I've got this capture device. It's a Gurmok, it's like a box thing. It just works. That's capturing in, cancel, and then the Blackmagic just appears as a Pocket Cinema Camera, USB. And it's literally that simple to get these things hooked up. So you basically get that stopped for some reason. So the Blackmagic's died, and I'll tell you why that is. That's the battery. This is one of the things, I may have mentioned this before, and switch back to me. The batteries on the Blackmagic camera are literally the worst on the planet. You can get about 30 minutes of life out of it, but they die all the time. When I first got the Blackmagic years ago, when it first came out, you'd be carting around tons of these batteries with you. They've got out one of these units, which is like a battery box thing. Hang on, so it comes into focus, which you can put this puts 3 on the bottom. But battery life was always a massive problem with the camera, and that's quite funny that that's managed to die. Let's switch back. Yeah, look, I'm frozen in time. That's managed to die. I mean, I only just changed that battery like 15, 20 minutes ago, and it's decided to lose the thing. So battery, I mean, we'll talk a little bit more about the power solution for it. I mean, I've had power bricks on the back of it. You can do all sorts of stuff, but it was always like not great for battery life. Very portable, but not great for battery life. Anyway, so I'm going to find another battery. I'll film some footage and we'll have a look at ProRes RAW in comparison to BRAW. And there is a difference between the two, and it's quite considerable actually. But we'll do that in DaVinci Resolve on Linux. I'm on Bazzite. This is Bazzite running, doing the OBS capture. So we'll have a look at it on there. Okay, so here we are. We're in Bazzite. I'm going to fire up DaVinci Resolve. And I just shot some clips, 2 clips. And I'm just going to sort of very quickly show you the difference between ProRes, there we go, ProRes RAW and BRAW. So the first shot here, you can see in the timeline, is Blackmagic RAW. Now, how I shot this was basically, I've used their constant, hang on, there's 2 types of compression. You've got the one with the ratios, and then you've got the one where it tries to maintain constant quality within the shot. Excuse me, let's have some coffee. And what that one does, it literally tries to go for the best picture. So if you put it on the 0 setting, it will just go for gold, and it can outdo your SSD because it's trying to just grab as much. So it's literally as uncompressed as it can get with that codec. ProRes RAW, on the other hand, you've got HQ and RAW, and HQ is there. The HQ one is the highest quality it captures, and it's sort of been likened to ProRes 444XQ, which is the very high end compressed codec that ProRes you can get, but it doesn't have, don't have any raw functions with it. And so this is the first one. It's just a shot of the chair, and then this is the second one, same chair. I'd literally, there is a bit of me in the shot, but I'm not doing that. We may see me, not too bothered about that. Anyway, so what I've done, they're on the timeline, it's 4K, and if you look at the Bayer settings down here in the bottom left, you've got all the stuff with the B-RAW that's come with the B-RAW. I mean, Blackmagic really went for gold to try and make B-RAW a brilliantly usable post-production standard. So you've got the color science, you've got white balance of shot. Now, if I drop that down to, clip, here are we, you can switch around. So I'm going to turn off, I've got DaVinci Color Management switched on. I'm going to turn that off, timeline, settings, output, color, and then go to DaVinci RGB. This will open up the debate so I can play with the color, he says. There we go. So if you can see now, I can now switch it to one of these color spaces. I can also switch the gamma into any of these as well. So you've got array log C and all of it. You can basically pipe the gamma to a new one. You've got highlight recovery, you've got gamma compression, and applying camera LUT. Now, I think there wasn't one of that. Yeah. So I've just got a standard LUT over the top, and it's embedded in the sidecar file. So if we switch to ProRes RAW, you've got nothing. You've basically got a raw to log conversion. You have got some. You haven't got many in there. But obviously it's Blackmagic Cinema sensor, so you'd really want to stay with the Blackmagic Cinema sensor to a degree, wouldn't you? ISO, you can do, you've got all the way up with the ISO, all the way to 25,600. But if you jump back to the RAW, the Blackmagic, you're capped out because there's the 2 steps with the sensor. So I'd need to be over 1250 to get the next level of ISO. And then you've got the standard stuff. You've got exposure bias in this one, color temperature. And over here, you've got a lot more control with the RAW. So Blackmagic, I mean, it's DaVinci Resolve, isn't it? So they've given you tons of control over the Blackmagic RAW file, which is great. I mean, Apple ProRes RAW is new. Maybe they'll add, I mean, the thing that says plug-in standard, no idea what that means. But you've got enough control. The aim of the game is to have a RAW file. So what we'll do quickly, we'll just go back to Blackmagic. I'll switch off, apply LUT, No, they've gone. Okay, and then I'll just go straight back into, make it very easy. Oh, sorry about that. Let's just go the time, did it the timeline. Timeline settings, let's switch it back to DaVinci Color Manager, which basically is sort of like ACES. If you know what that is, it's basically going to give me a good working color space. It's trying to pipe it out to 709 for me. So there's our two shots. So, okay, first one here, Blackmagic RAW. And remember, this is the highest level that you can do with Blackmagic RAW on a 4K cinema camera. Let's just zoom down, look at the chair. So if you look, hopefully you can see on the screen, you've got a little bit of pinking color noise around the edge of the stippling on the chair. And it's sort of a bit blurred. Now, I've not changed the focus. I've literally flipped between the two. Now, if I switch this over to Apple ProRes RAW, it's quite different. There's quite a difference in detail levels between the two shots. You see, that's quite blurred. And now you can actually, it's a bit more defined. Just try and do that again. You can see it there. Now, the focus hasn't changed. So basically, one of the big things, and I'll show you another part. There's an easier way to do it. Let's try over on the wall here on the shutter. Okay, so this is Blackmagic RAW. And you zoom right down and you can see it's a bit blurred, a little bit blurred, not so well defined. And then you switch to that. You get a lot more noise off the ProRes RAW. As you can see, tons of noise, but there's more detail. And that's literally the two things that are going on here. BRAW is partially debayed in camera, so you lose some of the information because it's debayed. The ProRes RAW files are literally raw. There's no processing going on as such, a little bit, but you get more noise, but it retains more detail. Whereas the BRAW, even the top one, can't retain as much detail. Let's try and have a look at the plant over here. Okay, same shot there. So let's just flip between the two. Now you can see the moment I do that, you see a lot more noise in the shot, a lot more noise. And then if I go back, it's smoothed out because it's been processed. So you've got the baked in, you've got all the controls down here, but you've got a slightly different level of information. Here you go, a lot more noise, but more detail. And that's really, apart from the two controls, you've got the controls here. You've got tons of control with Blackmagic RAW, not so much with Apple ProRes, but you've got more detail. So, I mean, it's an interesting thing. Basically, this is the maximum. It's only 12-bit files. It's not like RAID, where it's 16-bit containers. But it's an interesting thing there. You know, you've finally got the most you can get out of Blackmagic Cinema Camera, Pocket Cinema Camera sensor. Does it make much difference? Will you be shooting in ProRes RAW? It just depends on your workflow. I mean, if you can see, there's a lot of color noise there, and then you flip it over and that's gone. Basically, because of the processing that's happened in the B-RAW. So, I mean, it's a hilarious thing. You just jump on here. I'm in the studio version, so I can just put a bit of noise reduction on there, very tiny bit. It says 7. That's 7. Where are you going? I've got the right one. I did this yesterday. Oh, hang on, it's not catching up. There we go. Power 7. And my color noise is gone. You go on to this. Now, I don't need the noise reduction, but I just don't have the definition. So you're basically making the same, you've got the same picture though, but with a bit more noise reduction. So if I jump back to the chair, let's just punch right in on the chair again. Now, remember, this is ProRes RAW with the noise reduction. Okay, let's just jump back to Blackmagic RAW. See, yeah. So you've still lost the detail. But this is denoised. Let's have another look at our border over here. Okay, so it's smoother. It's been denoised. It's 6.6 things of noise reduction. Jump back to that. You still haven't quite got the detail back, but it's so subtle. I mean, if you were looking at this level of detail and you were like working to this infinitesimal level of detail, you're looking too closely. But that's the difference. The other thing, I mean, I suppose with ProRes RAW, it works in DaVinci Resolve and it works in Final Cut. So you've now got ProRes RAW works on everything. BRAW doesn't work in Final Cut X. So BRAW is more usable than any of the other formats. And plus, you know, it goes into everything. Everything can use ProRes RAW. I'm not sure about Lightworks, or I'm sure Avid can. But yeah, so that's it. So that's the difference you've got. I mean, can I do more with that? I've not really played with it. I did some shots the other day in Kew Gardens, and I think when you're shooting high levels of detail like the greens, that could be of use. But again, as you can see there, it's an infinitesimal difference. There's a little bit more noise, a little bit less detail, and that's it. Everything color-wise, you could just do the same thing. The colors are identical. It's the same bit depth, so you've got the same amount of bits to work with. But yeah, it's great. It's great to have it. I'm not knocking it. It's great to have it, but you know, BRAW's got much more flexibility than ProRes. So right now, but obviously people will be developing it further. And there you go. So that's a quick look at BRAW and ProRes on the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. So there you go. There's like a look at the history of the Blackmagic camera, Blackmagic Cinema cameras, and just to look at some of the functionality it's brought. I mean, it's came out in 2018. It's now 2015, 2025. It's 2015. I'm losing it. And the camera's still being updated. It was updated last week. It's probably the best camera purchase I've ever made, because you know, it's like when you buy like a Pentax or something. They upgrade them all the time. Yes, there's been loads more of these cameras that come out, the 6Ks and everything like that, but it still works. I mean, the webcam thing, I sort of showed that. It's a bit of a weird one to show, but the reason is just because, you know, I know the other Blackmagics do it, but none of the other camera manufacturers make it quite as simple as that, and it's incredibly useful. Yeah, it's not got autofocus, but it's plug in and play, which is phenomenal. You've also got the controls where you turn the camera vertically and it does, you know, Instagram type filming, and the whole menu system flips over. So it's an immensely usable camera. And the thing is, it's, you know, even today, I mean, mine was literally on the shelf to go out to eBay, and just giving me ProRes RAW, thinking, okay, you know, well, there's more things I can do with this potentially. I mean, I've got all the adapters for it. I've got the metabones, things like that. It's just a very useful camera to come around. So, I mean, in many ways, a huge thank you to like Blackmagic. They've done an amazing job with these cameras. They took us from like not having anything back in the day to this. I mean, you know, I think you can get these for like £1,000 now. You've got a 4K camera that shoots 3 different codecs. 2 of them are RAW. It can do slow motion. It's got a micro four thirds. You know, you can get some amazing material out of these things. And yeah, so it's a great thing. If you've got one, give it another play. If you're thinking of buying one to start with, yeah, it doesn't have autofocus, and there's lots of SLRs out there that do have these kind of functions. But does the image look right? Will you be able to learn? You'll learn a lot more in post-production. When you do post-production with these cameras, you have a lot more flexibility, you know? So there. So anyway, you know, if you've got any questions about the Blackmagic Pocket, I mean, it works really well with DaVinci Resolve, and it works well with Resolve on any Linux distribution you may wish. So just ask out. I'm happy to answer questions on it. It's a great little bit of kit, and I don't think mine's going to be destined for eBay anymore. I think I'm going to keep it. It's sort of the ProRes thing has just made me, and also realizing how easy it is to use as a webcam, because I'd only really discovered that a few months back, even though the firmware's been out for ages. So yeah. Anyway, I hope that was not too boring. A bit weird. I didn't run around and show you all my lenses and show you pictures of girls and all that sort of stuff that normally goes into these camera type reviews. It's just to have a look at it, and it's a great little camera. Anyway, thanks for watching.